Hi there, I'm Shane, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a classic microphone, which is the Rode VideoMicro. This is the first microphone that I purchased, and I've had it for years now, and it's often the go-to choice for a lot of new videographers. And in this video I'm going to be talking about my experience with it and why I still recommend it if you're considering buying it. So right off the bat, I'm going to say this isn't going to be an overly technical review. I'm by no means an audiophile or an audio expert by any means. I am an independent photographer and videographer, and I mainly use this microphone for my personal videos, which you see on this YouTube channel, and for wedding videography. So I've used it extensively, but I'm proficient with it, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means. So hopefully I can give you this review from the perspective of an average consumer and give you my opinion on it. I'll start off with just discussing the basics of this microphone, and fundamentally this microphone has a cardioid pickup pattern, which is just a bubble in front of the camera, which is quite nice and makes it broadly applicable for a lot of different situations. It has no internal battery to it and it's powered off your camera, which makes it extremely portable and kind of doesn't have to be turned on and off constantly, which makes it very good for people who want a very simple setup that's quite portable and reliable. And because this microphone is so popular, there's a lot of third-party options in terms of accessories for it. So if something breaks on it, it can be easily replaced for a low cost. On that note though, I'll start off with talking about the build quality. And overall, this microphone is quite well built. And at its core, the microphone is made out of a nice metal construction. And once you take everything off it, it's quite small. And it's just basically one solid piece of metal. And it has taken a couple hits over the years, and besides having a little bit of paint scuffed off it, it's held up quite well and the performance has maintained. The actual shock mount for it is quite effective, however, it notably isn't the best way to secure it to your camera. It's the only way, but it's just a little rubberized grip here that has never fallen off, but it is definitely very flimsy and can be kind of annoying to work with. Because of that, and it kind of fits into any cold shoe mount that you'd like though, and fastens on quite tightly. Though at the bottom of it, there is a 3/8 screw hole, meaning if you want to attach it to a mic boom arm or to like a magic arm off your camera, you can do so. Though you have to be careful about not actually stripping the threads, because it is a plastic threading inside there, which obviously isn't ideal, but again, at this price point, it's not going to be that much better. So once you actually do mount it to your camera, the included windshield for it is quite nice, though notably this is not the original one that came with my microphone. I lost it when going on for a hike and it must have just slipped off my camera, though there's a little rubber grip that's inside it which makes it kind of clip into place, though it isn't too hard to pull off, which can be again a frustration, but at the end of the day it would be nice to have a string to tie around or something, but I'm not sure how that would affect performance. Once you have it all on your camera though, you will notice it can be a little bit bouncy and it can be a little bit annoying while you walk around that it has a little bit of a bobblehead effect. However, once you attach the actual microphone line and there's these little threadings on the kind of screen mount, you put that on there and it does reduce the shake dramatically, though once that pops out, it's going to start bobbing again. I haven't noticed this affect performance in any sort of way. It just makes it feel a little bit flimsy and can be an annoyance while you have it on your hip. So overall, the build is quite nice, but it isn't going to be the best thing out there, and it's obviously small, so you have to be relatively careful with it. The way it attaches to your camera though is via a standard 3.5mm headphone jack, which is included with this nice cable, and it plugs in quite nicely into your headphone jack. It is again notably powered by phantom power, so this is both a pro and a con. The nice thing is you don't need to constantly be turning the microphone on and off, and you don't need to worry about charging it. However, there is going to be a slight increase in power drain from the camera itself by using this microphone. In practice, I haven't noticed any real significant change. However, it is going to be using additional power. The last disadvantage of this design is that there's no gain control on the microphone, and you have to do all the volume adjustment from within your camera. Again, for what this microphone is designed for, it's kind of a plug in and forget sort of thing. So it's not going to be a huge hassle to dial it in your camera, but it is an additional step and does make it a little bit more cumbersome to use. But overall, it works quite well, and in practice, it's extremely easy to operate. The last thing is going to be the audio quality. And again, at the end of the day, I'm not an expert on this. I've had no issues with it, and really the microphone's entirely functional. It has a cardioid pickup pattern, which means that it's essentially just a giant bubble in front of your camera where it's going to pick up selectively, not hearing stuff from behind and from the sides, which is great for weddings or situations where you want to pick up just the general room noise or just ambient environment noise. It's not going to be as specific as a shotgun microphone or as kind of high quality as a lav would be if you just place it on whoever you're talking to. So if you want to get the most out of this microphone, it's best just not to mount it on a camera and put it on a boom arm, or use a lavalier setup if you're doing an interview. So it's great for capturing just basic audio. However, it's not going to be getting you that kind of audio that you might imagine you'd want if you're just getting at this. There's a lot of different skills and techniques you can use to capture better audio, which I consider looking up, and pairing this microphone with something like an H1N and using it as an external mic will get you certainly a lot more mileage than mounting it on top of your camera. Though it is entirely functional, and I'll include some audio samples here to give you an idea of what it sounds like. So to commence the audio testing, this is how the microphone sounds in a very harsh audio room. It's just a small room with no dampening in the slightest. Though the floor is carpeted, everything else is quite reflective. And I have the microphone mounted literally just right on top of the camera with nothing too fancy happening. I'm about 1 meter away from the microphone, so it's a pretty neutral, normal environment. That's obviously kind of the average of how this microphone will be used. So hopefully this gives you a good idea of how it sounds like this when it's on top of the camera indoors. So here we are again in the same room. However, rather than having the microphone mounted on top of my camera directly, I have a boom arm above me, and the microphone's about a 1.5 feet away from my face. I don't know why I used 1 foot for this measurement and 1 meter for the last one. It's such a Canadian issue. We always flip-flop. Well, at least I particularly flip-flop, and I know better. I literally work in the medical field where we only use metric, yet I still use imperial for everything, and I don't want to. But anyways, that's a side note. Hopefully this gives you a good idea of how the microphone sounds when you put it on a boom arm. In my opinion, this sounds far better, and more importantly, it's a lot more consistent. So even if the camera is moving, or for some reason like you as the operator are less consistent, if you have the microphone in a consistent location, you're going to have better audio overall, and just a little bit more of a reliable source. I have the microphone back on top of my camera now, and I'm using it in a lot more of a traditional vlogging setup, with it just literally directly on top of my camera, plugged in. I have the settings dialed in. It's pretty much just set up and go. It's super convenient for vlogging like this. I'm just out with my dog in a forest, and there's a river just over on my right here, which you might hear a bit in the background, though the general cardioid pickup pattern this microphone has is pretty good at just isolating someone's voice just in front of the camera. And with the actual river behind the camera, it's not terribly loud. So it works out quite well. I highly recommend this microphone if this is all you want to do with it, because it's obviously just a great value and performs really well considering its price point. In this situation, I have the mic again just sitting on my tripod. The microphone's easily 3 or plus meters away from me, and it's a windy environment. This is obviously a suboptimal setup, but just an idea of how it captures audio at this distance, and how it picks up the ambient noise around the camera. I would never recommend using an on-camera mic in a situation like this, but this is an example of how it sounds. This is going to be the last scenario I demonstrate, and it's a bit of a stress test. I'm on top of a hill here, and it's rather gusty, so there might be a bit of wind noise. And the idea here is that it's not like this audio is something to really write home about. It's very functional, but it's not going to be the best track you've ever heard. But the idea is this is better than the internal audio from your camera. So it's going to give you functional audio that's usable, but it's not going to be kind of knocking it out of the park. So it's good for what it does, and at its price point, again, it's exactly what I'd want, but it's just important to know its limitations. It's not like this is the best thing to ever happen. It's just a very functional setup. Overall, though, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is going to be the price. And really, all this has to do is perform slightly better than the internal microphone in your camera. And that's already going to make it a value, because it comes in around $50 US or 70 Canadian, which is a very, very reasonable price point, making it accessible to a lot of people. The thing is, there's a lot of competition out there for this microphone, and there's many great options that run up against it. Majority of them are basically the exact same though, and I don't have enough experience with any of the other options to really say one is objectively better. The only one out there is, I think, the Deity Duo is the name of it, which has kind of two microphones, so you can have different pickup patterns, which is quite nice when you want to have more of a vlogging style video rather than having the camera facing you the entire time. You can turn it around. Though really, at the price point, it's hard not to recommend this microphone. It's always going to be a good value, and it's going to get you better audio at the end of the day, one way or another. So I highly recommend it. I've had a great time using it, and will keep in my kit for many years to come, I'm sure, for when I just need a quick and dirty microphone. But anyways, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions or comments on anything that I said, please feel free to leave them below. I'd love to answer any questions that you have or have a conversation with you about this microphone. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, as always, please consider subscribing to my channel and liking the video. It goes a long way for making more content like this, and hopefully grow the channel a little bit while we're at it. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.